I'm Bob Kinsey in Colorado. I am a retired United Church of Christ minister, and I would happily attend Jeremiah Wright's church in Chicago if I lived here in Chicago. I am also a retired history teacher of 24 years in Jefferson County schools. I am a honorably discharged veteran from the United States Marine Corps. I have a son-in-law who's currently in Iraq. I have a stepson who has served time in Afghanistan. And I'm primarily was moved to run in this race because of my opposition to our war policies in the Middle East and our blanket support of Israel and the Palestine-Israel issue. The Democrat who's running in this race, Mark Udall, has practically become a Republican in his seeking of the seat because he believes that Colorado is a red state and he has to adjust his message. But he's elected and sits in the House of Representatives, and as such, in the last 4 years, as he's looked at the Senate, he has voted for every penny of the war in Iraq in the supplemental bills, even though he voted and touts that he voted against the war in the first place. We have not been able to get him to vote against the money for that war. He has signed the House concurrent resolution about Iran, which, even though it says it's not interested in military intervention in Iran, is practically a declaration of war against Iran. And he has refused to sign on to the impeachment bill that Dennis Kucinich has in the House, either for Dick Cheney or George Bush. Obviously, I believe that there has to be a political price paid for the way you act. And when the Democrats got elected in the House to representation and to be in charge, they took impeachment off the table when it was already obviously revealed that we were engaged in a war based on intentional lies by the Bush administration. And there were no weapons of mass destruction. They hadn't been found for 3 years before that time. And Scott Ritter said beforehand that they weren't there to begin with. There should have been an impeachment proceedings begun immediately against Bush and Cheney. We must defend our Constitution. It's got to mean something. And the only way that the Congress can express the voice of the people with regard to war issues is to tell the administration it can't do whatever it wants to do and never be challenged to obey the laws of the United States of America. So in one sense, it's strange that I am speaking the same message in that regard as Ron Paul, the Libertarian candidate. I believe that the Green Party values, as a retired United Church of Christ clergyman, are as good a secular representation of what Jesus meant by the kingdom of God. If we could live by the Green Party values, we would create a sustainable, enjoyable, creative life for a reasonable number of human beings to exist on this planet. But instead, we have operated on a basis of imperialism and dominance, military dominance, and dominance through technology of the environment in a way that is destroying the environment. And all that the Congress could do was pass a CAFE standard to raise our automobile emissions or miles per gallon to 35 miles per gallon by the year 2020. Give me a break. We have to be on a war footing. We have to be on a war footing about our entire economy. It has to be transformed with the same intensity and speed with which we transformed our economy and energy consumption during World War II and directed it in certain directions. We have to redirect the way we operate and do economics on this planet, if we're going to have a planet for our kids and our grandkids. 2050 is the tip point year optimistically, and it's coming faster. James Hansen recently said that it's coming a lot faster than he thought when they set 2050 as the tipping point for the carbon emissions issue. So, you know, we're in Colorado, you know, try to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. I'm Bob Kinsey, and I send one of these to all my supporters around the state of Colorado so I don't have to drive all over the state of Colorado in a bus like my Democratic opponent, polluting and adding more carbon footprint. My folks can just show up at the local newspaper and say, "Hi, I'm Bob Kinsey, and I've got this to say." But we're trying to walk the walk as well as talk the talk, and to give the voters of Colorado a real choice, because real campaign reform will take place, not when we try to hold back money, which runs like water wherever it wants to go, but by having more choices. And the Green Party offers a choice which will really be a different choice, and one for candidates that stand for things I believe the people of Colorado and the United States want. Thank you. I was Korean era, and of course supported the idea of a United Nations police force to enforce borders and to keep countries from invading other countries and taking territory as a way of eliminating war as an instrument of national policy on the part of all countries, and realized that while I was there that we more strongly that's the direction we need to go, rather than somehow or other demonizing some people in the world and treating them as enemies as a way of driving a military-industrial complex that was growing throughout the time I was in the military, based on making us fearful of the Russians and the Soviet Union, and driving our society into a total dependence on this military-industrial complex, with producers of military goods in every congressional district in this country. And I became, after I got out of the military, but became more and more aware. When I was in boot camp, my DI said to me, we were all standing at attention with sand fleas around our face, and he said, "You know, the United States Marine Corps could exist without the United States, but the United States couldn't exist without the United States Marine Corps." And I laughed out loud, which led me to get a sock on the jaw that made my ears ring for about a half an hour. You know, that was military training. But, you know, that whole idea that somehow or other the United States is really focused and determined and shaped by the military is abhorrent to me, and is not a way to world peace and getting rid of war. Einstein said after the nuclear bomb, everything has changed but the way we think, and we continue to think the way that we thought beforehand. And I've run an imperialistic foreign policy that I've been aware of all the way through since that time, so it's been kind of a reflection back and forth. And I fear for my son-in-law's life in Iraq right now, actually. Yes. As individual members, people from the Green Party in Colorado are participating in helping to organize the activities in protest of the behavior of the Democrats, and to present a different vision of what the United States should be about. The city of Denver has sort of set up the parameters for where people can be, and most of us are pretty dissatisfied with that. Let's face it, you know, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, you're dealing with people who are in the pockets of corporations, and their agenda is set that way. They depend on that money to get elected and create their images. What you know, if anybody did anything that was illegal in that regard, everybody would be sort of cast in the role of terrorists. You know, one of the names was Recreate 68. One of the groups that's working on this is Recreate 68. Like 68 was somehow or other some anarchist attempt to destroy democracy in the United States instead of a police riot here in Chicago. But in any event, you know, it's very difficult to figure out what to do effectively.